Hi, in this video, we are going to make a REST service call through an SAP Cloud Application Programming Model application. If that's something that's interesting for you, then let's dive into it. We'll use a really simple API, which is the typical JSON placeholder API for to-dos. We won't take a look into something as authentication or abstractions, but I think you'll learn something. So let's get started. Starting in Visual Studio Code, we'll first initialize our project in the terminal. So let's enter cds init and now npm e for installing our dependencies. It'll take a while and we'll just wait until it's finished. And now let's switch over to the package.json. In the package.json, we need to define our external service. Now we'll do this by simply entering cds requires, and in that cds requires, we'll enter our external service by just giving it a name. So for example, JSON placeholder. Now we need to define a few things. In this case, for example, the kind, which is REST or OData. In this case, it's just a REST service, and credentials. These credentials are basically the information that you need to log in into that service or connect with that service. We'll just use an URL. So we use the static URL of the JSON placeholder API, which is jsonplaceholder.typicode.com, and we'll use the request timeout of 30,000. Okay, now let's switch over to the next thing we need. So next we need to create a service definition. So let's create a new file, and that file we'll just call it task-service.cds. Now what do we need for our service? We don't need much. We'll simply define a function and an action. The function shouldn't have any side effects, so we'll just use it for our get request, in this case, for getting back all of the to-dos. So it's an array of user ID, which is an integer. It's an ID, which is also an integer. The title, which is a string. And it's completed, which is a Boolean. So it's giving back true or false. Then let's use an action to create to-do as well. It's not really created in this placeholder API, but it returns a response as if something would have been created. The input parameters we need are the same, but the ID, because the ID is given by the system. So let's simply add all of them, and it returns all of the values above. Okay, now we've got our service definition. Now we need an implementation. So let's create a new file, also in the service folder, called task-service.js. Now we'll just require the CDS module, and we'll create a class which extends the application service. Okay, and we'll export this class so that CAP is able to find it. Now, thinking about our implementation, we need first to init our class, and we need two implementations, and that's get to-dos and it's create to-dos. So let's quickly type that out. In these cases, I'll use async await, and therefore I'll use an async function. What do we need to do? First, we need to create, let's call it a service client, or a service instance. So we are connecting to the external service that we've defined, and then we'll simply return the response that we are getting back. So we are using a transaction, and we are just calling get on to-dos, and we are returning the response of that get. Now we can simply copy that function in there, and let's create a create to-dos. Here it's quite the same. The only thing that we need to change is that we, instead of a get, have a post. And we need to give some more information. So we're just, let's say, passing through our request data. So we'll just give that one to the service. Now let's start CDS watch. Let's see if it's starting, and it's looking fine. So let's open up our REST client and do a simple test. So we're using localhost 4004, and as its function, we'll use get to-dos with brackets, and it's a get. And let's see if that works out. Yep, we're getting back something. Now for the action, we need to use a post. let's use the post, get rid of the ID, and let's see what's coming back. And there we are. ID 201. The sample data is with 200 data entries, so it's created a new one. And that's it. There's nothing more in there. You've done it. All right, that's it. It's quite easy, isn't it? So, for sure, you didn't do everything that you need to do in a productive environment. You didn't do any abstractions. You didn't need to use any kind of API keys. But hey, you learned how to do a simple API request, or rather a simple REST request, with an SAP Cloud Application Program Model application. And that's not too bad. And with that, I hope you learned something. See each other. Bye.